We are in Accra. I'm sure you can hear the beautiful sounds of the cars and the birds and the water and the breeze, okay? So if you are hearing all of these beautiful things, it's because we are in Accra, Ghana. And I'm with the one and only, the beautiful Queen Iminah, all the way from the USA, has landed her beautiful self in Accra. And we're going to be having a conversation, first of all, about your career, your beautiful music career, your journey. You've worked with the likes of Davido, Cardi B, and the likes, and the list goes on. But sis, tell us about who you are, where you came from, and what you are wearing, because I'm sure my cameras are just catching those beautiful colors that's popping out from your outfit.
Oh, well, peace and love. I'm so glad to be here with you on the Dentist Show. Me and my family watch you so much, especially before coming to Ghana this time. So it's such a blessing when Prince Anthony connected us. Shouts out to Prince Anthony.
Prince.
Yes, hooking everybody up, Bridge Zone.
I know, he's doing so well.
So well, just bringing Africa and the diaspora together. So it's a real blessing. Wow. So I consider myself a born-again African. And that's a term that I really live by. Some people will chuckle when they hear that and don't really understand. But coming from the U.S., I'm born in Oakland, California. I have lived in Oakland, Atlanta, traveled all around the U.S. and the world, and come from African American and Jamaican lineage. My parents always really instilled in us that we are African first, even though in our society, most of my peers have been disconnected from Africa. Because people don't really understand, like when our ancestors were enslaved, it wasn't just that they were made to work, but our entire cultural identity was forcibly taken from us. And so my parents, being the revolutionaries that they are, really made sure that we knew what happened so that we can be the ones to help just repair, to heal, and get back to who we truly are. So I consider myself a born-again African. I'm very proud of the lineages that I have, and I'm also just excited to learn as much about Africa as I can. I see Africa as one people made of many different cultures and traditions. It's like a beautiful tapestry. And so being here in Ghana, this is my fourth time in Ghana, and I am just learning and growing so much with the people, the culture, the food, the music, everything.
I want to dwell on the part that you said, a born again African, right? And that's really powerful. I feel as if the stories that we hear in the US of African Americans is that they feel disconnected when it comes to the African side. And some of them really and truly don't consider themselves as African. Yeah. You mentioned that your mom and dad really spoke to you about your ancestors, where you're from, and all of that. How does parenting play a part in how we view ourselves?
It's crucial because our parents are really our first teachers, and that really is like the fabric of who we are, what happens in our home life, and like where our parents' minds and their psyches are. So my generation, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, early 2000s. In the U.S., what a lot of people outside of the U.S. don't understand is that is when, in the 80s, is when like black people really were first starting to get real rights and have opportunities. But what happened simultaneously is that the crack cocaine epidemic came. And so that was literally a chemical warfare put on our people to where our communities were destroyed by drugs, by the violence, by addiction. So a lot of my peers in Oakland, where I'm from, Oakland is the home of the Black Panther Party. We have a very revolutionary reputation, but what people also don't know is that that is the first place that the U.S. government brought drugs when they began bringing drugs into the country. And so our community in Oakland was really ravaged by drugs. So a lot of my peers grew up with their parents on drugs, in jail for selling drugs, getting killed. So there was a huge deculturalization that happened and like a huge gap. So a lot of my peers didn't have parents. And then if like your grandmother, right, became victim of the drug epidemic. So there's like a huge link that was broken that most of us don't understand. And then with the introduction of like mass media, the corporate takeover of our black cultural industries, such as like hip hop, R&B, rap, programming, it's just turned the psyche of my generation into this other manifestation. So many of the masses of Black people in the U.S. don't know our roots, don't know our culture. But what I found is that when you bring that knowledge and when you just show them, it like just activates inside of them, and they're like, oh, I just didn't know. You know, like Africans, especially here on the continent, don't understand that for the past 400 years, there's been a very deep marketing campaign from the U.S. and just from the white power structure globally to give Africa a very negative and denigrated brand. So they'll brand it with savages, cannibalism, witch doctors, you know, all kind of hocus pocus things. Really, that we had no culture, we made no contributions, and if that's all you're learning, plus you're getting oppressed every day because you're Black, it makes you just hate every part of yourself, and you don't have access to get your own stories. No, there weren't really opportunities for us to travel. There weren't opportunities for many Africans to immigrate to the U.S. So it's been a huge divide. And so like this year of return energy and this era that we're in with this African Renaissance is something that I feel is very crucial and very important. And I feel like that's why the year of return was so successful, because we got to come and see for ourselves and tell people like, oh, Africa is lit. Like, I'm having a great time. It's all this great stuff, great people. Like the cities are beautiful. You know, people would see me at the Sky Bar, at Carbon, or, you know, rocking with my folks at Studio 189 or at Wakanda Beach Resort, like all these places, at the Golden Tulip. They're like, you're in Africa to have? I'm like, girl, it's better than America. So.
And, you know, talking about America, we are still finding that Black people are getting shot, Black people are getting discriminated, Black people aren't given a fair trial. How does that make you feel living in America and seeing all of these things that your brothers and sisters go through each and every day?
I'm not surprised. And for me, because I grew up really learning about like the real horrors of history, understanding that like slavery was one thing, but it did not stop there. And like just knowing what my personal ancestors went through and why my grandparents migrated from Texas to California, and just the lives that they had, what my great grandparents endured, like slavery never really ended. It just transformed in some ways. So my problem was that for a lot of time, things were so swept under the rug in that mass marketing campaign of like, oh, you know, we're the home of the brave, land of the free. It made people kind of sleep. But in the past 5 to 7 years, with all the like high profile cases and camera phones and social media, it's really forced people to acknowledge the truth. So I'm actually appreciative of that fact, because racism, white supremacy, white terrorism, like it's been happening for so long, but we didn't have control of our narrative. We didn't have the power to document it. So if there's any silver lining, it's that now it's so blatantly clear and apparent that there's no question. There's no like, oh, it can't be that bad, or oh, you're making things up. Like it's
on film.
It's clear, like it's painfully clear. So if you know, then you have to act accordingly.
And how important is representation? Obviously, we've had Obama and Michelle as presidents. We now got Camilla as vice. How important is representation for us Black people?
It's very important. It's crucial. However, a caveat to that is that we have a saying in African American culture that all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So we as a people, and I see this especially when I travel to Black countries like Jamaica, where my family's from, or being here, being in Nigeria, just because someone is Black doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have a Black-oriented agenda, that they're going to have the same cultural values that we have. So especially African Americans, I don't want us to get caught up in just the aesthetics of someone appearing to be Black without really analyzing their policies, their actions, their protocols, their priorities. Like, what are they giving? Like we've seen with the Biden-Harris administration, unfortunately, they have given executive orders that have specifically benefited every other group except Black Americans, and we were the backbone of their campaign and like their swag and their appeal. and we have the most issues. Like it's a easy thing to be able to create specific legislation to just fix one of our many problems that are not our fault, that are things that we inherited due to this system of oppression. So I hold Black elected officials especially to a higher esteem and a higher standard of analysis, because if you are representing us and this your global brand, like, we need to benefit from that. And every other group that has issues, like, they get their issues addressed. But when it comes to us, they just want to, like, either lump us in with everyone else and say, well, if we do this, Black people will naturally benefit, or act like it's a problem to specifically address specific issues that we have. So the representation is one key part, but I'm like, what are you doing when you say you're representing us?
Wow,
I want
that's
to see. I
powerful.
want to know.
That's true. That is what you're saying is very, very, very true. Now, your career, I want to know from the household, yeah, right? Your brother's artistic in terms of fashion and what he's doing now. Does that come from the house? Was your mum singing? I mean, is there some type of artistry thing going on in the family that you're also doing music as well? Where did it come from?
I feel like first it came from the ancestors. Like, I feel like we have very powerful, beautiful ancestors that, especially in our generation, me and my brother's generation, like, they really came through. My mom is an amazing woman, so beautiful, and she's just lived a very culturally rich life, and she's really lived life on her own terms. From her coming from like an African American, classic African American household, to being the first in her family to be able to go to college, like, literally, we came from my grandparents' families were sharecroppers. They moved to the Bay Area, California, and to create a better life. And my mom is that first generation from that. But she went like way above and beyond to really getting in touch with her African roots, and like with just exploring herself, because for the past 400 years, like, our ancestors were blocked from being able to really explore any creative gifts because they were just forced to work, and their destinies were decided for them. Her being that first generation, she was able to decide her destiny. I think it opened up a level of freedom in all of us. And so she, being an educator, but also she was an artist when she was younger, I feel like that just kind of trickled down to us. And then we just took things and made it our own. So it took me going through my life journey and trying to throw my life away as a youth and getting in all kinds of trouble and just making decisions that messed up a lot of my peers. But I was blessed to be able to, like, make it through unscathed. And after you have some near-death experiences, and when life gets real and you like, I could have really messed up.
Wow.
Tell
us about that. Tell us about, give us a story of what you went through. Because I think it's really important that there could be somebody watching that's going through a similar thing. They need to know that there is light after the tunnel, that there is a light, that you can go through whatever challenges that comes your way. So share a little bit of a story about what you went through as a young woman.
So growing up in Oakland, where I'm from, Oakland is a very beautiful place, but also can be a very dangerous place. So I mentioned earlier about just how we were affected by the crack cocaine epidemic, and so many of my peers were raised without parents, without their families, without having a solid foundation for a positive future. And in that, if you're raising yourself and trying to survive by any means necessary and any means available, a lot of times people turn to criminal elements. So I found myself from high school. When I went to high school, I was actually a grade ahead. So I was younger than everybody there. I was 13 when I entered. And the high school I went to actually had a lot of people just hanging out that had dropped out of school or kicked out of school. We're in all kind of things. And so pimping or human trafficking was a big thing, and still is a big thing. So Oakland is one of the hubs in the U.S. The Oakland and the San Francisco Bay Area is one of the hubs in the U.S. for human trafficking, specifically commercial sexual exploitation, which people will call prostitution. But prostitution is, when you get technically into the definitions, right, prostitution is more of a line of work that some people may do versus where it's something you're forced into. So I found myself from the age of 13 being preyed on by people who were trying to wrap me up into that world. And that, coupled with the kind of music that we have coming out of Oakland, where especially our rap and hip hop is extremely focused on like glorifying that pimping lifestyle and making that like the thing to do. So just imagine every time I turn on the radio, I'm getting called the B word, the H word, like that is the cultural standard that is socializing my peers. So they're also, we're referring to each other in this way. And that's like the standard that we have. And so I didn't realize it at the time, but that was culturally orienting me already to that type of lifestyle where I would expect people to try to exploit me. Yeah. So it's one of those things like, well, I'm going to do something before someone else does something to me. And it made me also, I think, just the level of economic oppression a lot of Black Americans are under, it makes the underworld very attractive because that's kind of the only place that you see Black people getting money. And so when I moved to college, I was 17. I moved to college in Atlanta to attend Spelman College. There was a huge mafia at the time called BMF, Black Mafia Family, that they actually, 50 Cent is doing a show on them now. So that's coming out. Okay. And they're like, just what rap culture is in the U.S. now is modeled after the BMF time. So I was literally there, and that became kind of the first group I was running with. They introduced me to just a higher level of like the glamorized side of criminal lifestyles, criminal elements. And so I found myself in just my values, my whole orientation was like, why am I going to college? We're, trying to be a teacher making $40,000 a year, whereas I could be, right, I could have a millionaire boyfriend that's a drug dealer that I, can just have this extravagant lifestyle and not really have to do too much of work. Not knowing at the time that that's putting me in the line of fire to where I found myself caught in the crossfire of shootouts and like narrowly escaping bullets. Wow. Or I'm in situations where I'm having run-ins with the law enforcement and everybody's getting arrested. I'm magically getting like a community service and, you're a college student, go along your way. I found myself in a place where I wasn't really handling my academics like I could have been. And then also financial aid, especially going to a Black college, is not a lot of money. I didn't come from a rich family. So by my junior year, I didn't have a scholarship to continue. So I found myself at a crossroads of either I'm going to find a way to pay for school, or I'm going to have to go back home and be, like a failure in my eyes. And so I chose looking at what are ways as a young woman I can make money. The strip clubs is something that is very appealing, and especially right now, it's extremely glamorized. Wow. At the time when I was there, it was very glamorized as well. But I didn't, I'm like, people are already trying to exploit me any way I go. So why don't I just take the initiative and do myself? Not knowing that that's a whole other world. Like there's a veil that you don't really understand. It's not what you would think it is at all. And so I found myself sucked into that lifestyle for a while with the intent of doing it to pay for college, but then
you get sucked in and it takes you to another
whole nother place. And so it got to the point where I realized I, hit rock bottom and needed to abruptly change my life when someone came into the club I was working at to assassinate someone. And it was actually someone I was literally going to be walking over there with that group. And I just decided to sit down and have a drink before I did that. So literally somebody I knew got shot 5 times. The whole club was shot up. I narrowly escaped that situation. And that was like a moment for you. A moment. Plus at the time I was living a double life. My mom, my parents, family, they did not know what was going on at all. And so when my mom actually wound up finding out through another mystical way, that snatched me all the way back to reality, where I was like, what? Like, I could not explain how I got to that point. Like, it took me some years of healing to even understand all the things in my adolescence that led up to me even devaluing myself to the level where I felt like that was okay to do, and I didn't really like value or understand myself. And I see a lot of Black girls, especially now, because with what's promoted in our rap. Like if you look at the whole WAP phenomenon and just what like Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, who I got some love for, but the content that they are really creating and the philosophy they're promoting, City Girls, like most of the female rappers that are promoted and popular are saying like, exploit yourself, like do all this, like you just look at relationships like this, just see what you can get out of a dude, get them before they get you. This toxic, it's not healthy, and it's not real. When you really, because I've actually lived a lifestyle, it's not what you want at all. And I know that I made it through situations I did to be able to help. Like I look at my life journey as similar to Harriet Tubman, to where if I can help go back and free people, more people can be free. Because right now there's just some deep mental slavery that's happening that people just think it's, oh, it's just some music, it's just a song. Like that's your spirit being shaped, and your mind is being geared towards it. So I was blessed to just really, once I got clear, it's like I went into super duper overdrive into like my actual self to say, yo, I have all these gifts, I have these talents, I have a bright future ahead of me. Like I need to value what I am destined to do and make that happen. And so that's what my brand and my movement from Ghetto to Goddess and is all about. It's helping us to raise our mental consciousness as women and as men from ghetto to where we were put in enslavement. We were put in oppression. Like ghettos are something that were created by city planners. And we as Black people, when we found ourselves in ghettos, like we made the best of it, but that's not our original. Like we come from the best people known to mankind. Absolutely. African culture is the richest, the most beautiful, most powerful culture. And so in us going from Ghetto to Goddess, we're going back to our original self.
I love that. And after the commercial break, we are going to talk more about from Ghetto to Goddess. I love it. See you after the commercial break.
Imperial Homes Ghana and Great Britain has carved a niche for itself within the real estate industry as the premier provider of luxury homes in Ghana and England, with a mission to provide safe, good value, modern housing and personalized estate management services to its clients and customers. All our homes meet the Lifetime Home Standard, as well as the highest standards of engineering excellence, safety, environmental sustainability, and cost efficiency. Imperial Homes, a signature of luxury.
Guba Card welcomes you to the land of gold, Ghana. The Guba Card is a unique loyalty card which gives you the opportunity to enjoy discounts of up to 40% on goods and services. You enjoy discounts of the best of hotels, amazing restaurants, beauty lounges, spas, health centers, fashion houses, and shopping centers in Ghana. The Guba card can also be used as a prepaid Visa card with Access Bank, our partners, offering you conveniences on all payment platforms. Applications is safe, secure, and valuable. Call us or WhatsApp us on 0245 156 705. Visit www.gubadiaspora.com. Guba Card, the best discount card in Ghana.
I'm still with the Queen and we are having a lovely conversation about the US, but we're going to scrap the US now and we're going to talk about Ghana. She has been here 4 times, and I'm going to ask her, when is she actually going to pack up from America and move to Ghana? Queen, 4 times. Yes. When was the first time that you came?
The first time I came, so 2019, I was on tour with the group Tony. So shouts out to Tony. Shouts out to Dwayne Wiggins. He's one of my musical mentors. And he's actually the first person that brought me to Ghana. So I was on tour with them. We had a show in Nigeria, which shouts out to Nigeria. Love Nigeria too. The whole ECOWAS, you know, I'm waiting on my ECOWAS passport, okay?
We'll hook you up.
Yes, Ashe. But we had a show September 2019, and he came to Ghana, I want to say December 2018. And he was like, oh, we're in Nigeria, we have to go to Ghana. I'm like, okay. I have always heard about it. My brother Tunde He did University of Legon here. Also, my older sister, Irella, she did University of Legon as well. So I've always been hearing about it. When I came, I was like, oh, this is lit. Okay. I've been used to going to Nigeria, and I have a lot of love for Nigeria. But Ghana is just its own flavor, own swag. And me being Jamaican, when I immediately set foot, like getting off the plane and going through immigration, I was like, I'm in Jamaica. Like, that's literally what I felt. And I've never stopped feeling that way. Wow. And I've even talked to people, and they're like, they call Ghana Jamaica mainland. Yeah. And I'm like, that's exactly like, just the level of connection that I had was unexplainable. Like, I've been hearing, you know, and sometimes you feel like, oh, it's cliche. Everybody says that about this. But when I came and experienced it myself, I was like, Ghana's lit. And I've just gotten so much love here. As an artist, especially, like, I've been able to work with some beautiful people, create some beautiful music, videos, so much, and I just love being around my people. So I'm really trying to get things together to actually make Ghana my base. So that's my prayer, my plan.
We love
that. Work out.
So you came the first time with Tony,
yeah,
to do a show?
Yeah, well, we came here to shoot a video.
To shoot a video?
Yeah, to shoot a video, and also to get in the studio. They had connected with Yapono, one of my brothers here, you know, one of the Ghana godfathers of rap. And so once we came to do that, I just realized, like, actually, I need to do a lot more in Ghana. Like, I just really felt and lived that. So I came September 2019. The year of return was happening. I'm like, there's no way I'm missing that. Yep. So I came in December, and then I went to Nigeria for some time, and then I said, I'm coming back to Ghana. So I came back in January, and then I'm here now. Again. Yeah, I'm here now.
You're back again.
Yeah.
So at the moment, you are concentrating on the album. We're very excited about that. So tell us about your musical journey.
So music is something that has always been, like, ever present in my life. I mean, it's in all of our lives, but I really realized after going through my personal journey from ghetto to goddess that music played a huge part in just my psyche, in my spirit, in my self-esteem, and in my healing or my toxicity. So once a major force of healing for me in my personal journey was me taking control of my programming. So I really shut off, like, the corporate mainstream radio. I shut off the corporate mainstream television, and I started programming myself. And actually, one healing thing that happened is one of my friends blessed me with Bob Marley's entire catalog. And I found myself listening to that. And I realized, like, after a couple weeks, I was like, I'm feeling so good, like, all the time. And then I just started curating my music. I actually used to be on radio in Atlanta when I lived out there. So I hosted an African music radio show, the African Experience Worldwide. It's actually the oldest African radio show in the U.S. And through that, I started getting introduced to African music a lot. And I was a DJ as well. I realized after about a year of DJing, I didn't really like the technical side. I'm like, legging equipment, setting up wires. No. But I grew up as an African dancer. And so I started actually healing just my relationship with dance and with African dance, and then working with different African artists because people would come be interviewed on the radio. So as a DJ, I started getting introduced to African music a lot, getting introduced to so many African artists through the radio show I was on, started hosting events, and then realized, because I'm also an African dancer, I was getting hired to, dance on shows and things like that. And then there was a magical moment that happened when this Afrobeat luminary named Dede Mabiaku, he's from Nigeria. He was Fela Kuti's right-hand man. Oh, wow. So he, was part of Egypt 80. He helped lead the band. He helped to train Sheun when Sheun was taking the throne and leading Egypt 80 when Fela passed. He came to the U.S. to do his first show, and I was recommended to be one of his backup dancers because he out here in Africa, he has like a 25-30 piece band. Wow. But in the U.S., he just came by himself, so he was putting that all together for the show. So through that experience, it was really boot camp. Like, he's hardcore.
Really?
Like, whoa.
Wow.
Like it was hardcore. And so through that experience, it's like I got initiated into the Afrobeat tradition. And I got, you know, it was just so many little things, and he was very like serious, very serious. And so that experience did something to me. And that was my first time really performing. And I realized, like, actually, I like this. It was a lot of work, but once I got on stage and just the reaction and just the whole energy, I was like, I really like this. And then just naturally, like following that experience, I started connecting with other people that were part of Fela's legacy. So Sandra Isidore, who is known as being the one that really introduced Fela to his consciousness. She's the only vocalist that ever was featured on one of his songs. She's one of my mentors. I connected with her on the journey. I connected with Femi when he came on tour. And then me and Sheun became very good friends. And then later on in my career, I was connected with Tony Allen and got to work with him before he passed away. And so he's actually somebody who I had one of the closest relationships with, where I'll never forget the first show I did with him. He was very skeptical, like, who's this American girl that they bring in to, you know, be part of my culture? He was talking mess. And I was just like, well, you know, bye-bye, we'll see, we get on stage, you know, what you have to say. Because I had a show the day before, I couldn't come to rehearsal. I just flew in and it was just in time for the show. Once we were there on stage, he was like, shh, you know, he said some curse words, like, dang, you really, you know, like,
really good.
Whoa. And he's like, who have you been studying with? So then when I just explained to him, like, this is just kind of mystically happened, like, I've gotten connected, he's like, okay. So he was really coaching me from when we connected in 2018 to when he passed. Like, this is something that as an African American, like, you really need to take this to the next level. And so it really inspired me. And also because I'm Jamaican, my father's a reggae musician, so I have the reggae side as well. And also because I'm African American, and we have the R&B, we have the hip hop, the soul. I bring all of that into my music.
Album.
All of that is in it. So I say the kind of music I do is melanated music. So that's a blend of Afrobeat, reggae, hip hop, R&B. Some songs are just straight in the genre. Some songs you're gonna hear elements. And I feel like I put a lot of reggae harmonies into my style of Afrobeat. So it gives it this whole other flavor. And then I'm also really connected to the Yoruba culture. That's what we found out is our lineage. We got our DNA trace.
But there's a bit of Ghana in there.
Oh, of course. So on my father's side, I know it's Ghana. I know the Jamaican side is Ghana all the way. Like, there was no doubt. I've never been clear in my life when I came somewhere, like, this is where I'm from. But also Nigeria, my mom's side, like, before we got our DNA trace, I was always attracted to Yoruba culture and the traditional spirituality. So I really started learning and growing. We got our DNA results in 2016 that said, oh, we're Yoruba and Fulani from Nigeria. So my mom almost fainted when she got it because I was so, like, a lot of my family thought I was a little touched because I was so deep into learning about the culture, speaking the language. I could speak Yoruba almost fluently. And I, you know, a lot of the songs I write are in Yoruba. And I was doing that kind of before I even knew the language. Like, my first single I put out, Kilon Shele, like, that's something that I'm really like, that song wrote itself. I didn't really, like, I wrote it, but I know I channeled it. I can't really explain it. And I wrote that before I knew my direct lineage. Like, I knew it.
That is amazing. What? You speak it?
Yeah. Benny. Lenu Yoruba.
Wow.
Mofe Yoruba.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it. And so in 2017, that was my first time coming to Africa. I came to be initiated into the Yoruba culture. So in the Yoruba spirituality, our main spiritual practice is called Ifa. And so I was initiated as an Iyan Ifa and Ifa priestess. So these elekes I wear are from that. And so that was a whole, like, 3-day ceremony. You know, I'm in the Ifa grove. It's all these different rituals, herbs, different sacrifices, different prayers, chants. And from that, you know, like, my head was shaved. Like, I did the whole shebang. The whole thing. And people are like, whoa, but that set me, like, it's like when I did that, everything I was trying to do in my life really, like, just sprouted up. Like, even my hair, like, people are like, weren't you just bald, like, last year? Like, my hair ain't never grew this fast. Like, just my whole connection to life blossomed so much, and the ancestors really have guided me and blessed me in my journey. And so it's a feeling that I'm very passionate about, especially African diasporans and continental Africans, because what I've found coming here, especially in Africa, people are very just surprised and also inspired that African Americans are so into African culture. Like, I went out the other day to brunch, and me and my mom had on some beautiful African outfits, and this lady came up to me in the bathroom, was like, you know, like, we try so hard to be Western and y'all look so great being African, like, I just need to do more of that. And she had on like an American dress.
Wow.
We had on our African regalia, and we were like the main people in the in Africa with African clothes on, like, hey, this is us. So I want to inspire us to just appreciate, like, we have a beautiful culture.
Absolutely. Bright. It's so bright and colorful and just beautiful. And I'm so glad that you've connected with your spiritual side. And I think that, like you said, it just opened up a whole new world for you. How important do you think these type of things is important for other African Americans to connect spiritually to Africa?
It is of the utmost importance. It's of the utmost importance. Our ancestors have so much wisdom, and when you look at our spiritual science from a like scientific standpoint, you really are amazed at just like the level of depth that we have. So in E5, the divination system, and just our whole system is based on 8, the number 8, 16, and so in E5 there are 256 Odus, which that is like books of the Bible, right? So the Opele divining chain is a chain that it has, it's like a chain that you hold. This side has 4 seeds, this side has 4 seeds. They can turn 2 different ways, and it will be 256 patterns they can turn into. When you are throwing the chain, or you're doing what's called an Ikeen reading, where you're like basically pulling and counting, and you're doing a binary counting, that's the first binary counting system. That's also what computer coding is based off of. So literally, when scientists have examined the Odu Ifa divination system and they look at the binary coding system, it's literally the same thing. Even in terms of how our DNA helix structure is, it's that 8, 16, 256. Even with how much water we're supposed to drink every day, 16 ounces. How, you know, this, that, like 8 and 16 are powerful numbers throughout, and that's embedded in our culture and in who we are. And just when I have started understanding our traditional spiritual wisdom from that kind of perspective, I'm like, this stuff is deep. And people think, oh, you're throwing shells, you're throwing bones, you're killing chickens, you're doing it. I'm like, y'all don't understand. Like, it's really deep and it's lit. And we'll respect other people's culture so much. Like, how many black people around the world will eat halal meat, will eat kosher meat? They literally do the same thing that what they call the fetish priests or whatever are doing. And it's spiritual science.
It's true.
Like, it's spiritual science. Like, there's things in life you can explain and you see, but there's so much that you can't explain, but you know to be.
I love that. I love that. So sis, before we go, tell us where we can find you in terms of where can people download the music. It's going to be iTunes. Where is it going to be when it comes out? And where we can follow you and just hear more about your beautiful musical career.
Thank you, sis. Everyone right now, Instagram is the place to be. So they can follow me at Queen_Iminah. That's IMINAH. And then it's going to be available on all platforms. So definitely iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, Google, wherever music is at, we will be there. Yes, we will be there. And yeah, very just excited, very thankful. Have to give a huge shout out to my designer for today, Sally Torpe, made in Ghana. She's an amazing, amazing designer. She blessed me so much. Just giving love. This has been great. I just appreciate having this conversation with you.
You're very welcome. So your last words to the camera, to your brothers and sisters in America, can you please encourage them to come home? What would be your words to them that are watching right now, still thinking, I'm not going? What are you going to tell them?
Africa is where it's at, and that's a fact. We are the ones that our ancestors truly have been waiting for, and more greatness is in store. So something that I recently put online was, Babylon is falling, Africa is calling. Wow. We see what's happening in America. America makes no secret in how they felt about us, and that it just is what it is. There is so much opportunity. There's so much love. There's so much support, and there's so many blessings that we can continue to import. So I just encourage us to get the facts for yourself, because connecting with Africa is our greatest wealth. Ashe.
Yes, Ashe. Guys, I will see you next week, same time. Stay blessed.